D McC, hello. Can you guys hear me okay? Hey y'all. How y'all doing? Hello from California. There's Adrian. I remember you from yesterday. Okay, good. Hey, I promised you yesterday that I would pop back on at some time today and finish answering the questions that. Thank you. Thank you. I've just been struggling with this monstrosity over here to my left. My electronic whiteboard just came in. And as is typical of the average male, I did my best to follow the instructions and still managed to put things on backwards. So I'm gonna be struggling with this monster tonight, getting this thing up and running. So hopefully we can start using it in lieu of a virtual background or in lieu of a screen share for our YouTube contingent. I mean, obviously I could do things through like StreamYard and stuff like that, but there seems to be so much lag anytime I try to use a virtual background that until I figure out how to get around that, this is kind of my workaround. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I scraped everybody's chat from yesterday. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go right down the list of the questions that were asked. And then when I'm done with that list, I'm going to open it up to you guys. Or maybe what I'll do is I'll bounce back and forth. The problem is if I bounce back and forth, I'm going to miss a lot of the questions that you type in the chat. So I think it's just better if I go right down the list and keep the promise to the people who were on yesterday, and then we'll circle back and we'll start doing a more intense Q&A for you guys, because I want, my job here is to save you time, save you energy and effort, and move you guys forward. I'll do this one real quick for Elisha. So what advice do you have? Someone who has been in a 5-year-long narcissistic relationship has been traumatized. Get the fuck out. Dude, if you know that this person's narcissistic, if you know they're not good for you, and they're treating you badly, this is not the right relationship for you. Get the fuck out. It's that simple. I hate to sound like, a little tough love on that, but if it's obvious what's going on, then you owe it to yourself. You deserve better. So by all means, get the fuck out. Right? All right. So let's go to our, let's see here. Natalia was asked, okay, we talked about that. Paul Bothwell asked yesterday, what are your thoughts on divine masculine? Well, unfortunately, Paul's not here, at least not yet, to elaborate on his question. So my answer in terms of my thoughts on the divine masculine are, it needs to balance. Elijah says, thanks, Dr. David. I love your videos. Love you, man. Right? Take care of you. First and foremost, take care of you, then worry about the people that take care of you and go from there. So divine masculine and just like divine feminine, there has to be a balance. There will almost always be a preference, right? Some people will be a little bit more on the masculine side. Some people will be a little bit more on the feminine side. You're not a male or a female at the soul level. You're a light, and you get to choose which part you want to play in. Okay, so those are my thoughts. Balance, always balance. E8, how to use tetralema. I don't know what a tetralema is. It sounds like you're talking about the tetragrammaton, and I find it. I use it all the time. Natalia was asking, how spinning technique helps speed up manifestations. It speeds up manifestations because everything that we create starts with a thought. That thought is made of spirit. That spirit pulls in energy. That energy pulls in mass. But part of the programming language that the spirit uses to create effect is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory modalities. Part of that primary encoding system is the direction of movement. Direction of movement has meaning at the higher levels of the 4-level human being. And so when you change the spinning, you're affecting it on several ways simultaneously. A, you're actually coding it in the opposite direction. Like if you're getting rid of pain, for example, if the pain is moving this way, you move the opposite. What's the opposite of pain? Either nothing or pleasure. So what happens is you get this noise canceling effect where you have 2 vibrations going in opposite directions and they cancel each other out, and poof, you've resolved it. You've unpacked the thought form. You've unpacked the holographic memory container that was causing it, and you've used the body's own programming system to facilitate that, which means no rejection. Okay. Adrian Marta Mason says, you say quick teaching of rhythmic learning. I don't know what that means. Means of Savagery says, I'm a new content creator. I was wondering what would be the best way to use NLP or hypnosis methods I can use to engage viewers. It's very simple. Pattern interrupts. Shock them. Surprise them. Ask questions that make them go, huh? Use titles that make them go, what? Huh? What? And because, again, people are moving through the world. Novelty creates dopamine. Dopamine creates interest. Interest creates action. So once again, use very catchy, very hooky titles that stop a person and make them say, what did I just see? And they'll click on it. Okay. And then make sure that your content actually provides some kind of value. Cobra Viper says, is there a hypnosis overload? Can too much hypnosis sessions diminish the intent of a program for someone? For example, to have a great memory or make studying easier. I'm gonna go out on a limb here because most people don't do enough hypnosis. That functionally, no, but there is a possibility many times when you keep getting bombarded by a message and you start to develop resentment towards that message, there can be kind of a reactant effect. I know, because I'm like the poster child for reactants. Guys, those of you in the chat, I promise you, I will get to your questions, but just kind of bear with me. Darren McCafferty from Edinburgh, Scotland. I will be in Dublin Thursday. So practically neighbors. All right. Let's see here. Pablo Barajahi asking how to remove trauma using hypnosis. Oh my God, there are so many ways to remove trauma using hypnosis. Start with the transformational triad, get the identity by design training, and then go right into real world trauma resolution, which contains classical regression techniques and holonomic regression techniques, and you'll have just about everything you need to resolve pretty much any trauma you encounter. Let's see here. So Frequencies is asking, what are you drinking, tea or soda? This is coffee. And then I usually have a ton of different drinks around my desk. So I usually have like 3 bottles of water, 2 bottles of iced tea, sometimes a grapefruit drink. This is my 1 cup of coffee that I've been nursing all day. So Brick Teakin is saying, you use Kundalini energy, better health, or build a better physique. Okay, Brick, I'm not sure what you're asking me, but if you're asking me, can you use Kundalini energy to build better health and a better physique? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is, the more I know about how you want to use it, the better off the answer I give you. Allegra Chalu says, I finally found one on time. Well, I did give you guys kind of a warning. Usually I don't. Adam Lee Brown says, thanks, Dr. Snyder. Let's see here. Moving down the list pretty quick. All the information shared is really great. Thank you, Miss Link 8. Healing sound vibrations and frequencies. Awesome. Okay, good. And let's see, there's a few more questions, and then you guys in the chat are ready to go. Joseph Andrishkin, can you teach me the Dimmock? I can teach you a version of it, yes. I wouldn't teach it to just anybody, though. I'd have to know you pretty well and know you're relatively sane. And one of the interesting things about a lot of the Q show that's out there is one of the things that, like the Doman systems, Art Mason's system, some of the other Dimmock systems, one of the things they don't tell you is you got to have a high enough amount of Jing and Qi to transfer into those points. So that's why a lot of times the pressure point stuff is hit and miss. Because they don't distort the structure enough, and there's not enough Qi transfer into the points. So when you have those 2 elements handled, Dimmock gets really easy in a scary kind of way. Anyway, Alex G, I love watching your videos to relax. Always makes me feel like I'm attempting to bet. Well, you are, Alexis. I would like to think that anybody who's here on Planet David is looking for ways to better themselves. You know, Cyrus from Brotherhood Society, thanks. The face reading would be helpful. What do you want to know about face reading? We got a great class coming up. For those of you in Dallas, we're coming to see you guys and gals. We got our first classical face reading class coming up in Dallas in April. It's on the website. You can go to www.davidsnydernlp.com/events and sign up for that class. I would love to see a class of like 40 or 50 people just learning the chi-based energetic systems that I was originally taught. Let's see here. Natalie M question follow-up. So if I'm strategic and careful with authority, what techniques do I use to safely confront authority? Echo technique, criterion values, renegade reframe patterns, and resistance removal formula, and that will get you a lot really, really quickly. All right, that's the end of the official questions from yesterday. So we are actually on to your questions. Da-da-da-da. Let me see here. So Eric Round says, my wife Tony has a question regarding human aura. Would this be something you'd be comfortable addressing? Really depends on the question, Eric. I'm happy to give you what answers I can. Nathan E. question, hey David, anything for connecting that's more powerful than 3 magic questions? Not at the beginning stages of an interaction. However, if you take the 3 magic questions and you graft on what we call in my system the 36 magic bullets, or 36 magic questions, now you can take that intimacy that you've built with 3MQ and take it into like, let's get married next week kind of level of intimacy. If you come to Attraction Mastery, you'll get a deep dive into how all of these different systems interconnect. By a show of hands, how many people are actually interested in attraction applications? I'm curious. Or, by typing me in the chat. Let's see. Jack's Temple Health says, is it possible to fall in love again in a 7-year-old marriage? What's one's approach? Yes, it is. It's very possible, in fact. But you have to remember the things that made you fall in love in the first place. And you have to start to generate a genuine gratitude and appreciation for the life you shared. See, one of the things that tends to happen is, I learned this from Bandler many, many years ago, was that when people get in a relationship, do you ever notice that like when you're in that early stages of infatuation or love, like when you think of this person, all you see are the positive things, right? And as time goes on and more and more crap builds up, at some point in that relationship, the pictures flip. Instead of start focusing and starting to remember all the pictures of the good things you guys did together, you start remembering all the bad things. And that starts the downward spiral. So the fastest way to reverse that process is to reflip the pictures. But sometimes that's hard when you're really far into a relationship and there's so much baggage there. So the best thing to do, aside from clearing out your shit to begin with, is go back to the person you were at the beginning of the relationship and remember what made you guys fall in love in the first place. And realize that in spite of the extra, cottage cheese or cellulite or the extra padding or the wrinkles or the gray hair, that person is still in there. And if you just see the partner you're with through those eyes, that other person will start to come out. It may not happen immediately, but you'll start to notice a very distinct shift in how you view things. Lots of other things, hacks that you can do, but I can't really explain them in an AMA. But I could show you. I can talk about them more at the Attraction Mastery class, where we got 4 days to talk about the ins and outs of going from cold approach to consummating a long-term relationship and beyond. So, for those of you who are interested, I really do encourage you, because we're not going to do this particular training again for probably another 2 or 3 years. I've done it. I did it once last year. I'm doing it once this year. I've already broken my policy on how often I do attraction workshops. So it's not going to be another one for 2 or 3 years. So if you really want to get ahead of the game, save some time, energy, and stop kissing at so many frogs, metaphorically speaking, you might want to come out to Vegas in February and learn how to really separate the good ones from the oh hell no categories and all points in between. Juan Robles, any thoughts on AI? Elon Musk mentions it. It could end civilization as we know it, and he's pioneering on it. anything that goes to an extreme becomes dangerous. I think AI, obviously has tremendous benefits to us as a tool. But if we start relegating decision making and management to something that does not have emotions, that does not factor in humanity, does not factor in mercy or compassion, we're going to have a problem, right? So again, it really depends on how you use the AI, right? As far as marketing goes, things of that nature, I think AI is phenomenal. Vincent Brigant, stop smoking specialist. Novelty creates dopamine, attention, interest, action. Great. You're very welcome, Vincent. Paul Dini says, hi, David. Hi, all. After Kai says, cheers. Patricia, any tips to shorten the COVID virus? Yes. 3 herbs that tend to work really well. Qinghao Beijia Jiajian Jingwei Shenqiwan, and Jiajian Jingwei Shenqiwan, and there's one more for lung heat that work really, really well. That takes a little bit more preparation. If you call my clinic, 858-282-4666, I'm sorry, that's not it. 858-481-1438. Ask for Dr. Dawn. And what 3 herbs, what 3 formulas are used to shorten the COVID virus. And she'll give you those. And then if you want, you can order them from the clinic. Elisa, do you like cats? I, on a psychological level, like cats. On a allergy level, I do not like cats. Or should I say cats don't like me? So Steven says, hey, David, how would you know if you have a spell curse on you, and how would you remove the spell? Probably one of the best ways to do it is have some kind of divination done on you, or follow your gut, talk to God and ask what they think. And then the first thing you have to do is connect to the divine and amplify your connection to the divine and surrender to it, which is going to amplify your vibration and start to unpack the reasons that the curse is there. The other thing is going back to the same old. You got to fix your shit. The reason curses can take hold of us is because there is something inside of us that resonates with the frequency of the curse medium, or the curse and the cursing entity. Okay. So the best thing we can do is what I've been saying pretty much my entire time. Clean up your shit, deepen your connection to source. And then there's all kinds of other rituals and processes that you can do to amplify your shields. But to really break the curse, you have to have either divine intercession, somebody who has more powerful magic than you do. And you need, or as is often a better approach, clean up your shit and get rid of it. Okay. Paul Dini, Dublin on Thursday. Did I miss a course? No, I'm actually attending one. I'm actually working on my doctorate in Chinese energetic medicine. And so one of the courses, one of the workshops that I need for the doctorate is going to be in Dublin. And so I'll be flying out with my wife, and we'll be doing a couple of days of tourist stuff. Then I'll be doing 3 days of intensive energy training in medical Qigong. And then I'll be coming back to continue the journey in Planet David. Pants in the Ground says, hey, David, are you as effective with animals as you are with people? I'm going to have to say no. Largely because I don't work with that many animals. I will tell you that a lot of the empathic techniques, like the state control, sphere of influence, master and commander, those kinds of things, those work really, really well on animals. And a lot of my students have used them very effectively on animals. So I'm going to say I don't because I don't work with animals. But that would probably be the only reason I would say that. Steve, hey, Dr. David, how would you know if you, we've already asked that. Let's see here. There are so many hold on a second. I think I missed a few. Panson says, do you feel any of your work transcends linear time, and have you found anything interesting regarding time? Yes and no. I'm going to just leave that question kind of hanging out there. In our advanced classes, like our advanced meditation and magic classes, In our advanced NLP and identity by design classes, we start introducing people to the filters of linear time. As we get deeper and deeper into holonomic regression, the holonomic information processing network, holonomic nervous system, then we start to get things that are time transcendent, and weird phenomena start to manifest. So there's, again, everything what we do, even though we're a pragmatic school, we're an embodiment school, we're about going out and being effective in your chosen application. But we're also a mystery school in that we're going to teach you a set of skills that allow you to get the results you want right here, right now, but also lay the groundwork for more powerful, more advanced, more vibrational, transpersonal, magical practices. So you can come in and you can get what you need and go, or you can get what you need, realize there's more, and keep going. It's really up to you. We don't try to make you learn things that aren't going to solve your problems. We want you to come in, take the information, apply it, get a result, and then decide if you want to move on into other areas or hang out in Planet David and do cool stuff with other people, with cool people who like to do cool stuff. But everything we do has a progression to it. And every piece of it is pragmatic, it's workable, and it amplifies the levels that came before it and is built on the levels that came before it. So that's why so much of our trainings always start with either identity by design or killer influence, right? Because you're either coming in because you want to be of service, which is almost always the identity by system, or you want to or you want to be more influential in some aspect of your life. Take the randomness out. And at some point, those two paths intersect and they merge, and you get all the other stuff becomes available to you, right? So let's see here. Get Smart Quick says, hello, y'all. Elijah says, good question, Preston. Diamond Thief, why does a click happen when you accept a new subconscious belief? Are you talking about that kind of double take moment where it's like, oh, wow, like the sudden realization or enlightenment? Is that what you're talking about? Let's see here. Prem Saran, there are so many NLP techniques. So is there just some basic core techniques because we can't learn that many? Yes. And unfortunately, the core things you need to learn are so hidden in the syllabus of classical NLP that most people never figure it out. We did, and we teach it as CPI, and we teach it as killer influence and identity by design. And once you have those techniques and those principles, there's nothing in NLP you can't do, right? Nothing. The David Green Show. David, what is the definition of sexual tension, which is actually useful and practical? Sexual tension is the combination of attraction and desire combined with an uncertainty that it's actually going to happen, right? So if you ever think about, like, you're with somebody and you feel like there's this attraction, right? But it's almost always, it's like there's a sexual undercurrent to everything, but nobody wants to really bring it out in the open, right? There's an attraction, a great way to see what sexual tension or positive sexual tension is like is when you watch, I guess the most recent example would be the show called The Rookie. And if you watch the first 4 seasons, you'll see 2 characters. Tim Bradford and Lucy Chen are the characters. And they start off very, very mentor or mentee kind of thing. But as you watch the dynamic, you can feel the underlying attraction growing. And that's what we talk about positive sexual tension. It's a desire for more, but an uncertainty of whether to go for it or whether it's actually going to happen, right? And so when you're walking that tightrope, that anticipation, that wondering, actually builds on itself, right? And if you have good calibration skills, then you have the ability to know when it's time to actually make a move or take it to the next level or whatever. Let's see here. Get Smart Quick says, love the snake shirt. What was the inspiration? I like snake. I like snake skin. I like rattlesnake skin. I like crocodile skin. I like patterns, animal patterns. Dr. David killed my snake. Nice, Rob. Fly Girl manifesting. Is there a spiritual or psychological connection to sinus issues? I was taught that a lot of times sinus issues relate a lot to the third eye. So it can either be an overactive third eye or it can be a blocked third eye. And so I think when you start doing some of the third eye clearing exercises, like in the esoteric Buddhist traditions and stuff like that, you'll start to get a lot of sinus stuff happening. That Pizza Lesbian 69 says, do you know of any alternative to holo sport? I think you mean Halo Sport. I was doing your Inner Power Martial Arts course and you mentioned it, but they no longer sold. Would you casino light and sound machine achieve it? Not really. Casino will create a brainwave entrainment state, but it won't necessarily directly stimulate the sensory motor cortexes of the brain that lead to enhanced physical skills. Could you use a casino to get you into a plastic state? Yes. I don't know how long that neuroplasticity would last. Lots of people have tried different things. The two things that people kept mentioning was like the Sense AI and then Focus AI. But I think some of those are actually like what's it called? Neurotherapy or something. It's brain it's neural training, but it's not the same, right? Len says, my son and I signed up for the Killer Influence training. We are so excited to learn from the master. Me too. When I find him, I'll let you know. Thanks, Len. I'm glad you guys are going to be there. It'll be fun. Pizza Lesbian says similar results. I don't think so. Honestly, no. In fact, I know for a fact it won't be the same. There are certain constitutional attributes like endurance and things like that the working with the Halo Sport tended to create that the casino won't do. Elijah Barnett says, wait, so Dr. Dave, do you believe in curses? Could you briefly elaborate on the existence or possibility of curses and such? Curses come in, I know at least 12 different ways to curse somebody before you start adding NLP into the works. So to elaborate on it would really take me a while, Elijah. But yeah, there's lots of ways to curse people. I'll give you one very common way to curse people: gaslighting, making people think that they're crazy, as a form of cursing. Okay. Let's see here. Vincent Brigand, Stop Smoking Special. Hey, Dr. David, I find your work fascinating and really useful. I'm just curious, what types of questions do you ask yourself about hypnosis? What types of questions do I ask myself about hypnosis? Can you elaborate on that, Vincent? I'm not sure exactly where you're going with that. And you're welcome, by the way, for teaching. Lindsay Faith. Hi, David. OMG. Hi back, Lindsay. Sun Peach 321 says, hands-on healing, trying to help someone else with pain. Do you have the image of their desired outcome on my list, or can I just cycle with my own list alone with hand? No, you got to put, based on what I was taught, you got to put an image and an outcome for them onto your list. Okay. And I would do their outcome that you want for them the same way you did the outcomes for your list. So take it out 3 spaces. Okay. Beloot says, how to use recovery breathing when you need to breathe a lot. It seems to work when the breath place is slow and moderate, but I can't seem to do it when I need to breathe rapidly. Focus on the exhale. So as you're doing recovery breathing, emphasize the exhale. So, and if you can do it in time with your heartbeat, that will tend to, or every couple of beats, that will tend to help you control your breathing more. There's an exercise in Systema where we actually walk and breathe, and we increase the number of steps between breaths. We shorten the number of steps between breaths to expand our ability to exert control. You don't want to wait. You want to do these things well in advance of when you're going to need them. You don't wait until the barn's on fire to start digging the well. Okay. By the way, is my lighting too bright? I turned up the lighting like all the way just because I wanted to see if that made a difference or not. Let's see. Len says, will I be teaching vibrational influence anytime soon? Yes, I'll be teaching a basic vibrational influence in end of July, beginning of August in Las Vegas at the end of the Hypnothoughts Live. Actually, it's vibrational healing. So for those of you who are interested in energy healing and all things in between, I'll be doing a 3-day class on that in Las Vegas. And then I believe it's October, November, I'll be doing a 5-day beginner to advanced energy mastery class, also vibrational influence, in Costa Rica. And so it's a 5-day retreat, and we're just going to go deep, deep, deep into all things energetic and vibrational. So Elijah says, also for healing, do you think the inclusion of marijuana helps people mentally? I'm not a big fan of psychedelics of any kind, or psychotropics of any kind. I think marijuana absolutely does help people cope with certain things, like the symptoms, like pain and things of that nature, stress, nausea perhaps. But I don't think it heals anything. I think it just helps people deal with the symptoms. Hanson on the ground says, I got things to share. Okay. Steven says, one of your shows you explain how to use your techniques on children that are not able to by you touching them. I have no memory of what you're talking about, Steven, at all. And Malchala says, hey, David, what do you think of numerology? I think there's something to it. I think there's definitely the vibrations of number and frequency and color absolutely have some phenomenality to them, but I don't study numerology, so I can't really elaborate on how they're all relevant, right? I know how I use them, which is very basic. Diamond Thief says, yes. Get Smart Quick says, what mystery school from history would your mystery school be? Integrated. I come from the Kabbalistic school. I come from a Coptic Gnostic tradition. I come from a Taoist tradition, Buddhist tradition, and the Barden Hermetic tradition. Not to mention what I've gotten from my martial arts trainings as well. So, yeah. And if you technically you look at the roots of Sistema, that comes from the Hesychastic tradition. And so I've got 4 or 5 different, but we integrate it all, and that's what makes it user friendly. We distill it down to core basics, principles, and mechanics, and then you fill in whatever gaps you need to based on whatever belief system, or I should say personal theology that you want to apply to it, or none for that matter. It doesn't need to be a theology basis to it at all once you understand the mechanics. Let's see here. Patrick Groove says, hey, Marcus Alexander, FYI, YouTube notification is very dodgy. Been subbed forever and the all bell is engaged, but usually nothing. I just happen to look many. Sometimes I don't post heads up. I just show up because I just feel the need to connect and I want to just talk to you. Sometimes a lot of times I do give you a couple of days heads up, but it's not consistent. That's on me. Get Smart Quick numerology is lit. Just pick the right style. Okay. Marcus Alexander, Randon Kirk had it in Star Trek. TOS. I'm missing the TOS reference. Eric Rounce. The question is, have you heard about aura detachment and what might cause it and heal it? Okay. There are ways, I shouldn't say this. There are ways to evict on a temporary basis a person's energy body or spiritual body out of their body. I think what you're talking about on a functional level is energetic dissociation. And so it's usually trauma based. And so heal the trauma and the energy body should, or the auric body should move back into position. But I'm betting without a doubt, I'm betting it's a trauma that caused it. And you're going to need to do some form of soul retrieval, i.e. regression, to really fix that up. HMR would probably do it too. Cody Robinson, I give up too quickly, lack motivation, and do things I know are a waste of time. I get job offers and don't take them. Okay, it sounds like a deservingness issue to me, right? So I would start to explore why you feel, or what's behind not taking the action. So I would go back and I would study our material on the somatic search engine, the 6 dynamics of an unconscious response. I would start using those things in combination with the transformational triad and really start unpacking what's behind these behaviors, because the behavior isn't the problem. There's a reason the behavior is there, right? And that's what you need to unpack and attack. Okay. You may need to get somebody to help you through it. I know a lot of us like to do stuff ourselves, but sometimes it's just better to have somebody else driving the bus. And Mal Chawla says, where should I learn numerology? GG33 is selling his stuff for 10 to 15K, and I can't really find good stuff. I don't know, Enmal. I'm not a numerology person. For some reason, the name that comes to mind is Robert. Shit. If you go to vesicainstitute.com, I don't know that he can actually help you, but for some reason his name keeps coming up. Go to vesicainstitute.com and ask him, because I think he might have a better answer to your question. Let's see. Marcus Alexander, wait a minute. Shirt with no vest. This man is an imposter. I'm getting a little fluffy from Christmas, so nothing fits me exactly right. So I'm kind of a little hesitant on the going back to the vest right now, because I bulge in all the wrong places. Patrick Grew said, hey, David, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on healing with plant medicines such as ayahuasca? First of all, I don't think ayahuasca heals you. It's a psychedelic for sure. It's a psychotropic, and it puts you through some intense situations that allow you to unpack stuff that you haven't been able to access if you're guided right. And that's what heals you. But I'm big on any form of herbal medicines for healing, big time. I'm trained in herbalism. My wife has forgotten more about herbal medicine than most of us will ever learn. My kids use it all the time. My in-laws use it all the time. I use it. But I make a very strong distinction between psychotropics like ayahuasca or peyote or mescal or whatever, and this ibogaine, or is it ibogaine? There's another one that's really strong hallucinogenic. Logan Tossin, thanks for all you do for the world. You rock, #1 hypnotist. Thank you. Eric Laxo, what approaches have you found being most effective for profound changes in someone's identity? A purely identity by design, an NLP approach with changing beliefs? Oh, no. First of all, understand identity by design is a combination of hypnosis and NLP, plus a whole lot more. There's not a lot in NLP directly that will allow you to help change a person's identity, other than submodalities and understanding the hierarchy of beliefs. Most of the really profound identity work is going to be some form of hypnotic intervention combined with targeting the building blocks of personality. So more of a conversational hypnosis approach. But again, depending on your skill sets, one thing, at some point the lines all blur, whether you're doing NLP, classical NLP, covert hypnosis, energetics, it all changes. It's all, after a certain while, it all becomes the same thing. So, but I would do the identity by design approach, and then I would do deep regression work, and then more avatar work from like the last phase of identity by design, where we're doing the magic circle, stuff like that. And in the course, I give you a very comprehensive way to do deep trance identification and things of that nature. Let's see here. Dr. David, I've tried DMT. It sends you to a place where it's just totally unbelievable. What's your views on that? I think, again, the body produces, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the body produces DMT naturally in very exalted and ecstatic states. So I think what you're dealing with is a feedback loop. The state, or entering that state, can trigger the release of the chemicals, but also exogenous amounts of that chemical can trigger the state. I think the question really becomes is, when you're in that state, what can you do with it? Right? Are you going to this exalted, blissed out state just to escape? Or is there some kind of work that you're trying to accomplish? Right? In advanced mystical practices, a lot of the work, a lot of the really powerful magical stuff doesn't actually happen until you can naturally achieve that soul embodied state. And then then you have access to all these powers and abilities, and then you go to work helping your younger brothers and sisters make the world a better place, right? When you force entry into that state artificially, I don't know where that takes you or what access to what abilities that it gives you. So the big question is, there's probably artificial ways to get into any state you can conceive of. The question becomes, what can you do with that state? Right? There was a question asked earlier about the casino. I spent a lot of time with light and sound machines, and maybe they can put you in that state. But then what do you do once you're there, right? Because the minute you take the damn machine off, you start coming out of the state. You might have 5, 10, 15 minutes of residual state, but how are you integrating a practice or a technique with the state? That's why I'm a big fan of teaching you the technique that forces the body to create the state to make the technique work. Because I've given you a methodology to apply, and just doing the technique will create the state automatically, right? Whereas without a technique, just going into a state gives you this big engine with nothing to power, right? I'd much rather give you, again, to use a metaphor, a Lamborghini with like a Volkswagen engine, so that you can learn how to work the vehicle and do these things, and get where you need to go. And then as you get better and better, you get a bigger engine, right? That's kind of how I look at how I teach metaphysics and magical practices and techniques and things like that, as opposed to giving you this big Lamborghini engine with no car wrapped around it. Because that's largely what happens when you are doing a lot of these psychedelic states, or energy building for that matter, but there's no application connected to it. I've been doing the microcosmic orbit for 30 years. Great. What can you do with it? Well, I can circulate chi through my microcosmic orbit. And, right, we're a pragmatic school. You didn't come here to leave. You're going back to your source anyway. You came here to express your power, to express your creativity, to express your light, to learn lessons, to evolve, right? So you have to have skills. You have to have access to abilities. You have to be able to do things. You have to be effective in this world, because that's why you came here, right? So that's why I teach the way I teach, and why, as you get deeper into like vibrational influence and real world trauma resolution and the magical and the inner circle stuff that we do, now you've got all these techniques that are, because just like lifting weights, you're built your influence muscles, your body's got stronger. But now when you get behind closed doors, you know how to safely manage all these things. Now I can show you how to build the power. Now I can show you how to tap into higher forces. And it doesn't change your lower techniques in terms of the steps, but it makes them infinitely more powerful. Think of that Lamborghini with the VW engine that just got an engine transplant, and now you've got a 16-cylinder nuclear powered monster under the hood. It's the same idea. A lot of people think having more power, having more energy is the way to go. Not necessarily, because again, energy is going to amplify whatever's there. And regardless of what true mystical tradition you're following, the first stage in every single tradition is going to be the same. Clean up your shit, purge your shit, get the toxic energy out, regulate the body, get rid of your acquired personalities, all of your traumas, all of your stories, bring your light through, and now take it to the next level, right? Because if you start bringing more and more energy in and you haven't cleaned up your shit, you're gonna fucking explode. And when I mean explode, I don't mean literally explode. Although I guess for some people that's a possibility. What I mean is you're gonna have a meltdown. You're gonna have traumas. You're gonna have reactions. Your body's gonna do all kinds of very violent purging exercises because it wants to evolve, and you're not gonna. And without the proper guidance or understanding, you're not gonna understand what's going on. You're gonna wrap negative narratives around it, and you're gonna go crazy, either literally or metaphorically, right? So there was a methodology to a lot of these systems. Unfortunately, a lot of the older ones, especially, were designed to keep you in servitude for the first 20 or 30 years of your life, just to prove you were worthy to have the next level. Well, most of us don't have 20 or 30 years to have the life we want. So we need something that we can start to apply right away. Hence, my approach to teaching is to give you something that is immediately useful and show you there's more, and let you decide how far down that rabbit hole you want to go. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now, but hopefully that answers some people's questions. If anybody wants to know about our upcoming events, you go to www.davidsnyder.nlp.com/events. We have Killer Influence training coming up. We have Attraction Mastery coming up in February. Identity by Design is in March here in San Diego. And then in April, we'll be doing Introduction to 5-Element Face Reading, Classical Chinese Face Reading, and the energetics of it. We're launching our official Classical Face Reading Silo. I'm really excited about that in honor of my teacher, the great Lillian Bridges. So I invite you all to come down and learn some really cool stuff and expand on what you've already got. Let's see. Elijah says, are you uploading this stream so we can go back and watch it later? I found a lot of useful information from this stream, and it would be cool to be able to. Yes, I let it, every time I do a live stream, with very few exceptions, I leave it up there for you, right? If you're smart enough to ask the question, you probably deserve to have an answer. Elijah says, also, thank you so much for the insight and the advice. Len saying, what is the difference between stealth CPI and killer influence? Language. And so I get this question a lot. And again, for beginners, it doesn't really matter. But for people who've been around the persuasion and influence world a while, it kind of has a little bit more relevance. So let me kind of elaborate. Anything that has CPI in the title, CPI 1, CPI 2, CPI 3, CPI 4, stealth CPI, all start and focus on language. In other words, the universal persuasion protocol: know your outcome, control your state, get rapport, use your feet, use your language, manage their state, jump into their process, manage their criteria and values. Every system of influence that we teach is going to teach you that core, including killer influence. But then what happens is you go deep dive into the core language model that an influence model that allows you to be effective anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, for any reason. And you train it and you embody it. And then from there, you're kind of at a fork in the road. You have a choice. You can continue to focus on linguistics, or you can merge into the realm of non-verbal hypnotic operators. And that's where killer influence takes you. So there's both killer influence and stealth CPI, all CPI 1, start in the same place, the same foundation. But then CPI takes you off into different studies on various aspects of linguistics. Killer influence takes you off into the study of hypnotic operators that do not necessarily require linguistics, but are tangent to it. Like, so how to manage proxemics, how to manage the spatial relationships between you and another person for maximum suggestibility, how to engineer an environment so that it's amplifying people's openness and readiness to accept what you say and do. Meta programs, how to organize the data that you present so that it's most palatable to the people that you're talking to. Embodied cognition, how to use one level of sensation to create different levels in mind. So for example, if I give you a warm drink to hold, right, you will tend to judge me with more emotional warmth than if I give you a cold drink to hold. So these are things that are not based on language, but have a profound effect on a person's psyche and perceptions in the environment. We'll talk about the 4 pillars of irresistible hypnotic influence: attraction, authority, affinity, and acquiescence. These are 4 macro areas of study that have a lot of behavioral aspects to them that don't require linguistics, but create very powerful states of suggestibility and compliance in the people you interact with. Then there's cold reading, which is all about being able to speed read people. Profiling, face reading is taught in there. Lie detection, attraction enhancers, things of that nature. And then there's one section called dirty, rotten tricks, which are advanced tactics that you can use. They're kind of gray hat area that you may need to whip out sometimes when you're dealing with people who are somewhat unscrupulous in their ways of influence. So the CPI silo, all about language. So CPI 1 is the core persuasion model. CPI 2 is all about neurologically based storytelling and metaphor, how to tell powerful stories that just literally program people to believe what you say, do what you want in the background without them even realizing that something's being done, right? Renegade reframing, CPI 3, is all about instant conversational belief change, overcoming objections, and winning any argument in seconds. Powerful stuff. But again, all language based. And then finally, the capstone on the CPI system is CPI 4, charisma and conversions, all about hypnotic presentation skills. So up until CPI 3, you've learned how to do these processes largely in a one-on-one context or small group context. But what if you have to speak to a group of people? How do you engineer talks and seminars that have people salivating to run to the back of the room to take the next step with you? CPI 4 is all about how to do this stuff to masses of people in an ethical, honest way that make people just scream to be your client, rush to the back of the room to install rapid, deeper learnings in people's minds, and how to protect yourself from high-level pitchmen who are using these tactics and techniques on you, right? So there's a whole spectrum in the CPI system, but it's all based around language and different forms of linguistic communication, whereas Killer Influence gives you a much fuller, broader palette of techniques that you can pull from depending on the environment and the situation that you're in that don't necessarily require language to be effective. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Social Media Money says, I want to ask, do churches use hypnosis? Yes, they just don't call it hypnosis. Okay, the short answer is yes, they use hypnosis. They would never admit to using hypnosis. They wouldn't call what they do hypnosis. They would vilify the use of hypnosis, but they're basically doing a spiritual form of hypnosis. Ghostwriter, thanks, Mr. David. I just subbed to the Vesica Institute. How you discover this guy? I discovered him just the same way you guys do. Random internet searches. Everything happens for a reason. I have a lot of respect for this guy, for Robert. I can't remember, for the life of me, I can't remember his last name. It's really bothering me. But I've had a couple of his courses, and he goes really deep. So for those of you who are signing up for the Vesica the courses, they're really intense. So just strap in, okay? Cody Robinson says, thank you for your time, Dr. David Snyder. You're very welcome, Cody. Alex P says, it's Elijah. Was there a question about 48 laws? I didn't see it. I'm not seeing it. Sick015. What is your view on reincarnation, past life regression? Believe in it 100%. Pedro Coto. How law of attraction work for making money? Lots of different ways, Pedro. The 2 things you need for that, you need an identity that says you're allowed to make money, and you need to be willing to take the actions necessary to become the person who can actually make that money. Natalia M says, which of your courses is the best for spiritual development and which is best for figuring out your purpose? Okay. Natalia, here's what I would recommend for you. First and foremost, because you asked me a lot of questions yesterday about authority, confrontation, things like that, start with Killer Influence. From there, you have a choice. You can go into Identity by Design, or you can go into Vibrational Influence. Vibrational influence training will develop you along spiritual trajectories. But a lot of the processes you'll be doing in vibrational influence require a combination of the material we teach in Killer Influence combined with the 7-stage Identity by Design silo training techniques in Identity by Design. So the short path would be Killer Influence, vibrational influence. The more well-rounded, fully foundational class would be, of course, Killer Influence, Identity by Design, vibrational influence. Okay, that would be, for you, I think that would be optimal. Alex is asking, what are your thoughts on Robert Greene's book? I love it. I've had it for almost 10, 15 years. Actually, I've had it for over 20 years. Excellent, excellent book. Everybody should have it. Brian Seacrest says 36 bullets. Is there a question there, Brian? DH, I'm a little bit tipsy from the Christmas, but after the Christmas, but while I have you live, I just wanted to give you a direct thank you. Oh, you're welcome, DH. Thank you. Blast Radius says, hey, David, I'm a beginner at self-hypnosis. What can I do to ease my depression and shyness? Change your posture, change your breathing. Imagine everyone you meet is a best friend you haven't seen in years, and go up and say hi. Fastest way to do it. Elijah Barnett, laughing my ass off. Nice, Alex. Straight up stole my question, but the chat's on lag. I don't believe he has made it to the question yet. Okay. Alex says, I didn't steal it. I'm helping you get it answered. All right. Apparently you guys are brothers from another mother. Superiority Complex says, let's see. I've seen from vids about hypnosis being used to commit crimes, from trancing out the cashier at the register to make money, Manchurian Candidates, essay of unsuspecting women, sensationalism, or real. No, there's some truth to that. There's some truth to it. I think some of it's blown way out of proportion, but I think there's some truth to it. Blast Radius, I'm so tired of this feeling of hopelessness. How can I begin to change my default inner feeling? Change your posture, change your breathing, focus on the things you want and why you deserve to have them, right? The information would probably do really well for you, as would the transformational triad: color breathing, magic frame, and energy spinning. Ghost Rider, Power Pose. Senior Florist, are there real-life immortal masters as per Taoist traditions or Saint Germain and Hindu equivalents? If so, have you met any, and where do they reside? I have never met any. I am largely agnostic about it. I think the possibility is there for sure. I've talked to people who claim to have met immortals. I have never done so. So that's all I can tell you about that. Ilka DeBoer says, at Blast Radius, David is amazing, but for things like depression, you might want to check out Eckhart Tolle's books on videos. Okay. I don't know. I don't follow Eckhart at all. So Arun Upriti says, hey, love from India, love from San Diego. Vincent Brigant says, it's like a masterclass every time he answers a question. Thanks a bunch, David. You're welcome, Vincent. Loose Truth TV says, there's 86 of us here. Give a big thumbs up and show some love. Yay! Thank you guys so much. Let's see here. Jesus Castas, why do I feel like I can't retain much on what I read? You know, fun factoid. One of the more famous cuckoos out there, and I say famous because he was, one of the problems is genius often masquerades as insanity and vice versa. A guy by the name of L. Ron Hubbard, many, many years ago, discovered something very interesting about reading comprehension, is that your reading comprehension tends to be pretty good right up until you come across a word you don't know the definition to, and then you go into a confusion mode. That's why a lot of times you can be reading a page, you get to the bottom of the page, can't remember what you read. It's because somewhere along that trajectory of reading, you encountered one or more words that you did not fully understand. You went into a confusion mode, it changed your state, and you lost access to that information. So he recommended always keeping a dictionary, a current dictionary. next to your wherever you're reading. That can help a lot. Another thing that can happen a lot of times is you're reading too much in a sitting. A lot of times you have to change your chunk size. So like a lot of us, especially if we spend a lot of time on the internet, I'll be reading a page. I'll get like 3/4 of the way down the page, and I want to get up and move. I want to get up and I have to get up, come back. Oh, Robert Gilbert, thank you, Vincent. And I'm trained that way because it's the same mechanism like when you want to click away from a page. So a lot of times if we're really indoctrinated into this short span of attention, it may be more useful to like read a section, come back, read another section, come back, read another section, and just do smaller and smaller chunks and play with the chunk size, how much you read at a time, and see if that enhances your cognition at all. Social media says, I want to ask you, have you seen the hypnotist online that goes by the name Marcel? You mean Marcel Klein? Is he legit? As far as hypnosis goes, he is a hypnotist for sure. So I know he studied a lot of my stuff. I met him at Chase Hughes' wedding for in person. Everybody I've talked to seems to think he's pretty on the level. So for now, I have to say, yeah, he's legit in terms of his skill sets. His backstory, stuff like that, I can't confirm or deny that one way or another. So that's up to you. But yeah, as far as I know, he's legit. Simon LaTraverse says, hi, David, you make badass content in hypnosis. You recommend to slice it as thin as possible to bring someone from A to B, even if they're opposed. Could you expand on tips and strategies? Okay, so first of all, I think what you're saying is, okay, if somebody wants, this is a metaphor I learned from Cameron Cleveland. If you've got somebody that's heading south, right, and you want them to go north, in terms of skill set, it takes a huge amount of skill to make them do a 180-degree turn. But if you apply subtle shifts where they're going south and now they're shifting a degree, and they're going south and they're shifting a degree, and they're going south and they're shifting a degree and shifting a degree, eventually, if you just make enough small adjustments, they'll be going north without ever realizing they're going north, and it'll seem like their idea. So the question becomes, how do you do that? You have to take where you're at, where you want them to be, where they're at, and break it down into as micro a set of steps as possible so that they're not as perceivable or as objectionable as they might be. Okay? And you have to soften it, and you have to link what you want them to do with something that they want to do. And then people will tend to do that, to follow that process of their own volition. So I hope that helps. Let's see here. Sarah D, I've had a hard time with eye contact. I just turned 41 and I'm done feeling like a kid who is afraid of making eye contact with all the adults. Okay, here's a simple thing to do. Learn positive eye contact. So as you walk down the street, look someone in the eye, genuinely smile, and move on. Don't even, just smile and move on. And just practice making brief eye contact all the time, right? When you are in a drawn out conversation, don't stare into their eyes, just gaze at the area around their eyes. And that will give you a more comfortable, softer illusion of eye contact, right? So these are some things you can do. Now, if there's an issue with making eye contact, that sounds like a job for regression. So that's something that we're probably going to have to unpack and attack. So I would start with learn the six dynamics of an unconscious response, the somatic search engine, and the transformational triad, and start unpacking the reasons behind the fear of eye contact. A lot of us have a natural aversion to making eye contact, but the ability to hold and maintain eye contact is a really, really important social survival skill. So it's definitely a worthwhile practice and study, Sarah. Okay. Prem Saran says, what are the 3 most powerful NLP techniques? Which are your big guns? And what is one you use most in your daily life? And don't say all the techniques. Okay, I won't say all the techniques. Echo technique. It's the simple, biggest, most powerful one we got. Everything works off the echo technique. David Orman, Central Florida System. What are the best techniques for memory enhancement, whether it be language vocabulary or kata movements? Thank you. Enhanced neuroplasticity is going to be your go-to. So the best thing you can do is really intense visual imagery. And that includes language, by the way. Anytime you can take a vocabulary word and turn it into a picture with a dynamic activity involved, you're going to get a deeper retention of the word. D. McSee says, how can we build our chi energy and use it for good? Come to vibrational influence, and I'll teach you. But there's lots of good Qigong instructors out there. The guy I go to is Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson, but he's the real deep end of the pool. Some of the more accessible Qigong systems out there would be Wild Goose Qigong. It's very, very good. 8 Pieces of Brocade, another good system. Standing on Stake. Well, that's actually a pose. That's not a Qigong system. Those are probably the two best studied and most powerful ones I've seen in terms of healing your body and kind of preparing it for the next level stuff. If you're familiar with Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson's work on the Taoist 5, really good. 6 Healing Sounds is another good one. You know, the problem you got to remember when you're dealing with Qigongs are like prescriptions. There's a different Qigong for any application you can name. So, you know, you've got to figure out what is it you really want to be able to do so that you can find the system that works best. Young Spring Forest Qigong is also very good, I'm told. I'm often described as intense. I'm an all or nothing type of guy. Energetically, does this mean I'm wired different? When am I coming to Toronto? So first of all, I don't think it means you're all, I think it's okay to be intense. That just means you're passionate, right? The problem can become is how are people perceiving that intensity, right? And if that intensity that you exhibit is impeding your social interactions with people, then you've got to find a way to modify your behavior and your expression so that it's not as off-putting to the people you're seeking to influence. Nothing wrong with being intense at all. My wife is one of the most intense people that I've ever met, and so am I, right? But I had to learn early in my life to modulate that expressiveness and be more lighthearted, easygoing, playful, what have you, because people get intimidated and afraid when they're faced with that much energy being expressed. So again, it goes back to the NLP concept of behavioral flexibility, right, and state control. Let's see here. There's nothing. Okay, that's not a question. Is the transformational triad best done while in trance? Well, you can't do them without going into trance automatically. But I think the question is, should you do this as part of a formal hypnosis process rather than just point to where you feel it, take it out, spin it, put it back in? I tend to see a lot of power either way, but we get a more holistic transformation when it's done as part of an ongoing hypnotic intervention. But in terms of a surgical strike where you just got to get this shit fixed right then, right there, boom. All of these things involve trance processes, but it does not have to be part of a formal hypnotic process, but it works really well as part of a formal hypnotic process. So if you know 4 magic bullets or whatever hypnosis inductions you use, they're very powerful within that context. I love how you said, hey, you remind me of Susie from Amazing World of Gumball. Okay. Very interesting. The power of Zenu compels you. Okay. Let's see here. Vincent Brigham says, have a great night, everyone. Cool. Yeah, we're coming into the home stretch here. I'm probably going to go another 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're going to jump off. because I got to get ready for my Dublin excursion, and I've also got a coaching class to teach on Monday night. So for those of you who actually want more hands-on instruction, want a full deep dive, we actually have a year-long coaching program. It's called the Unlimited Influence Mastery Coaching Program. If you're interested in that, it meets every Tuesday night from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific, and we go through the entire Killer Influence curriculum, the entire Renegade reframing, the entire storytelling and metaphor training. And then we verge into some of the applied behavioral stuff, and kinesics and interview and interrogation, lie detection. And then we also go into advanced energetics. So for those of you who are looking to transit to get the full training from nuts and bolts to the transpersonal remote influence stuff, that may be something you want to look into. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you energy. And it's going to bring a whole bunch of power and skill to your life. And it's going to give you a really, really tremendous advantage. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can talk to Stephanie at 858-282-4663 or give her a call, an email at Stephanie at mlppower.com, and she's happy to answer any questions that you have. So that Pizza Lesbian 69 says, I did a DTI of a model, and ever since I have no desire to work out. Is it better for me to age regress to before the DTI, or should I just DTI my past self? Both can work. But if DTI got you there to begin with, DTI will get you back. Either one will work for sure. Okay, and they're not mutually exclusive. Do both. Right. Actually, I would regress to the you. I would take the parts from the new model that you like, keep those, and build them into the new avatar of yourself that you're creating, and see how that plays out for you. Hold on a second. Okay. Jeannie Stoltz says, thank you for all you do. Jeannie, you are more than welcome. I'm glad you find value in what we're doing. Social Media Money says, why do I feel like I can't connect with people? I fake laugh and put effort into interactions in order to fit in. My natural state is completely non-reactive / boring. Chances are you're dissociated from it. There's probably something in your past that you need to unlock. So I recommend the Transformational Triad, 6 Dynamics of an Unconscious Response, somatic search engine processes, and then find somebody who's qualified to do regression and see if there's a reason why your neurology is trying to protect you from engaging in people. Jesus Castaneda says, thanks, David. Ghostwriter says, at Social Media Money, do identity by design. Simon LaTraverse says, thank you so much, man. It's awesome to have your feedback live. Cynthia Holly says, I have 5 different types of dictionary, get words that I'm not familiar with. Okay. Cody Robinson says, I was wondering about something I learned about hermetics. It seems that highs and lows are inevitable. Yes, unless you understand higher laws. So how would I take the edge off a bad mood? Understand that moods are a natural byproduct of living in trauma school Earth. Your immortal soul, your eternal soul, understands these things, but is not impacted by them. Right? And so the idea is when you become embodied with your soul, you understand the ebbs and flows of this dimension, but it's like the moon. It's not you're above everything. You perceive and understand everything, but you are meta to it. And so you're not caught in that web of cause and effect quite so much. Great things can happen and you'll feel okay. Bad things can happen and you'll feel okay. And it's more of a steady state. Right? It doesn't mean you won't feel things. It's just you'll understand, you'll have a much different perspective on these vibrational highs and lows. And as you get deeper and deeper into rapport with first your immortal soul and then divine source, the things that happen, either strongly positive or strongly negative, won't have as big a variability to them. There'll be a very steady state because you'll understand the impermanence of things. And so you'll start relieving attachment, which is what the problem is you're attached to all these things. You try to hold on to the super good stuff, and you try to deny the bad stuff. That's actually why we is a form of attachment. Denial is a form of attachment. So the more you can release these things, the more rapidly you become free on a hermetics level. So how would I take the edge off a bad mood? Ask yourself which part of you is actually feeling bad and realize that that part isn't you, right? Change your posture, change your breathing, right? Do a gratitude inventory. All these things will help you change your mood, right? Let's see here. So Alex is asking, does turning 30 mean anything significant, or is it just it's just a number, guys? It's just a number. And it takes on whatever significance you give it. Okay? When am I coming to Toronto? I'm not sure. I'd like to come in the summer or the springtime when it's warm. I'm going to talk to Mike eventually. I'll see Mike this year at Hypno Thoughts, and we'll look at maybe doing something in 2024 in Toronto. Trust the process. How could deep trance identification work if you may have a hard time visualizing the person? Because the way I teach you to do it in Identity by Design is to accumulate as big a sample of that person as humanly possible. Talk personal interactions with them, videos of them, things they've written, preferably by hand, interviews they've given, all of this, and you just immerse yourself in it. You immerse yourself in it, and then that helps you to create the avatar that you're seeking to do. Brian Secret says, how do I deal with the boss? In what context, Brian? What do you need the boss to do that they're not doing? Healing sounds, vibrations, and frequencies. Had to walk the dog, but stoked to make it. Glad you're back. Let us see it now. Says, I am intense to intense people. I'm basically a mirror. Okay. Madman, what should I do if I'm going through a heck of a lot of physical pain, more so in my neck area? A, are you sleeping under a vent or an open window? B, is your pillow decent or not? Do you have too many pillows? What does your posture look like? Once you've checked into that, 6 dynamics of an unconscious response, somatic search engine, spinning, color breathing, magic frame, and you should probably be able to put a really big dent in that neck pain. So what does NLP boil down to essentially, and why is NLP not known widely? Well, NLP boils down to a core set of neurological dynamics that, when they're applied properly, allows you to have a tremendous ability to reprogram what your nervous system is doing by default. And it's known, it's pretty well known. It's not well understood. And of the people who've learned it, those people don't really understand it that well either. And a lot of it isn't their fault. A lot of it is the training structure that has been used to teach NLP, classical NLP, for at least the last 20 or 30 years, is not optimized to granting understanding. It's optimized to get people in and get them out of the door with a certificate. And so I'm often critical of not NLP directly, but the way NLP is taught and the way it's organized. And a lot of times the way it's marketed. Because by and large, the vast majority of people who go to an NLP training they come out thinking like they've learned some really amazing things. Then they get about 20 feet out the door and goes, how do I do this? How do I use it? Because when it doesn't work the way it's taught most of the time in the real world, for real world applications other than therapy. Every now and then you get somebody, the exception to the rule who's a natural, and they just run with it. But by and large, the vast majority of people who learn it can't really use it all that well. Okay. And so we revamped everything about how we teach this material so that any human being with an average intelligence can do it and do it well. Right. We focused on the things that were absolutely important, that you needed to know, that gave you the biggest return on your investment. We gave you a process, we gave you a system, a simple methodology to follow that allowed you to unpack things and do it in a very easy way. And then we filled in all the gaps later on as you get deeper and deeper into the subject material. We pull back the curtain a little bit more because now you're ready for it. There are certain things that you're taught in prac and master prac you don't need to know for the most part. Like I just did I'll be honest, I just did an 8-day NLP certification. I taught one therapy technique the entire time. That was it. And the people came out mind blown because of what they could do, because I took the distractors out, which is a lot of the old classical NLP techniques, right? They actually distract you from what you actually need to know, right? So, but I also made them have prerequisites. Like when you get to my NLP training, you can't get into my NLP class until you've had at least killer influence or identity by design. You got to be a great hypnotist before I'll let you into my NLP class. Because once I teach you how to do teach you the way I'm teaching you, you can log in anybody's training and rock them. And that's a big claim, but I stand by it. You know, so I'm a little competitive that way, but hopefully that answers your question. Cody Robinson, and bounce back to the other extreme. Don't know what that means, Cody, but okay. At Madman, he has videos on rapid pain removal. Okay, Russian breathing techniques, very good. Box breathing for sure. Jesus Castner says, do you recommend a clean bill of health before we start doing any inner work? Depends on the inner work, Jesus. Most of your inner work is about fixing your shit. So I think on a broad level, you can approach it, even if you're not in the best of shape. What will happen is if you're training properly and you're doing the right practices, you'll get healthier as a byproduct of the inner work. It's not like, you got to do all this stuff, then you can start. You're going to be evolving through the entire process, but there'll be times when it's time to stop doing this and start doing this, because there's progressions to it, right? Will identity by design be a good approach for weight loss? Yes. Sarah D says, thank you for answering. I could listen to you all day. Well, thank you for that. Unfortunately, I got about another 8 minutes and I got to jump off. So let me see what I got here. Julia Bishop Beauty says, I had a Tai Chi instructor who used to be quasi-famous. Cool. Healing Sound says, is the window for global gurus to vote for you for #1 NLP over? I don't think so. We just haven't been promoting it. But for those, let me grab the link for you guys really quick while I have you on here. A second, I gotta find. I gotta make my window bigger for a second. Vote here. I'm gonna post the link. You might have to log in or give them your name and email. But for those of you who are enjoying the content, I could use your support for #1 NLP Trainer of the Year if you just go here and name me as your #1 dude. I'd appreciate that. Having a bad hair day, obviously. Let's see here. Shlomo says, thanks, Dr. David. All the best. You're welcome, Shlomo. Eric at Laxo is asking, when someone during a regression regressed to the womb, are you of the opinion that this is accurate or something? No, I think it's absolutely accurate. And even if it wasn't, if it was just a metaphor, you'd still treat it the same as if it was real. Okay. Ghostwriter at Senior Florist. Yes, movies do it all the time. Part of the psyche, like Carl Jung and used to say, yep. Social Money, random question. Do motivational speakers such as Tony, oh God, yes. Yeah. In fact, if you heard me talking about charisma and conversion earlier, how these high-level speakers get you rushing to the back of the room, that's the exact material he uses. But he won't teach it. He'll do it, but he won't teach his trainers to do it, because then they'd be competition. And I stand by that statement. I know a lot of high-level speakers out there who have whole systems where they have a trainer's training, and you talk to their trainers from that system, and they don't know what I'm talking about. I had one of my guys go to a very famous speaker who was in The Secret, and he was talking. He ran into some of the trainers, the assistant trainers, at the airport, and they recognized him because he has a very distinctive look. And they asked him how what he thought of the seminar. He says, "Great. I I realized all the techniques he was using from my other training. And he starts talking about, embedded commands and analog markings and behavioral primes and confusion induction, all these things. When the two trainers looked at him like, what are you talking about? He never taught us that. He never showed us that. And believe me when I say that that is the norm. Because if you knew how to do all those things, you would be their competition. They don't want that. Okay? Sorry, humans are humans. Let's see. Julia Bishop Beauty says testing. Don't know what's up with that. Okay, Julie Bishop Beauty says, he said that during an incident where he was ill in the hospital, during a coma-like state, was told humanity was headed for a non-biological existence. There was nothing biological left. Well, I think that's going to happen someday. But not today, not tomorrow, not in our lifetime. There's at some point the sun's going to go supernova, and either we're still residents of this solar system or we're not, and we're going to be a big ice ball. But you're an immortal soul, so don't worry, you're going to wind up someplace else. John McElwain, the best free class online. Yes, it is. If you go to http://www.davidsnyder.lp.com/free ticket best you expo. Now, here's the deal. When you go to this page, there is some kind, if you're doing this on mobile, okay, there is some kind of glitch to find the free ticket prompt from mobile. So if you're having trouble and you're trying to access the free tickets for mobile, you can do one of two things. A, email Stephanie at NLP Power and she'll get you a link. Or you can use that link on your PC and you should be able to navigate the free ticket drop down. Okay. Nathan E says, I know the others, but what is color breathing? Color breathing is where you point to a feeling in your body that you want to get rid of. You assign a color to it, and then you ask your higher mind what feeling, frequency, or vibration / color would dissolve the problem color, and you breathe that color through the affected area. That's level 1 of holographic memory training. And it's not, there's like 7 levels to it, but we call that the color game or color breathing. And that's where it starts. So is my picture too bright? What's the lighting look like for my picture? NLP, who is Kilstein and why is he controversial in the NLP world? I don't know that Harlan is controversial in the NLP world. And no, he's not a seducer guy at all. Harlan Kilstein is one of the old guard neurolinguistic programmers. He's pioneered a lot of uses for NLP for marketing purposes, copywriting, things of that nature. And that may make him a little bit more controversial because he actually uses it in a way that's not necessarily therapeutic, although he's trained in that stuff. So that's the only thing I can think of. D. McC says, you are the #1 NLP teacher. Thank you. God bless you. Do my kids use NLP? Yes. NLP can be used very, very effectively in psychoanalytic contexts. It really depends on the skill and the desires of the doctor. Andrew says, no, man, you look good. Any tips for quicker learning from books? I outline, I highlight, I do all, and I try to, when I learn something, I try to put it into action as quickly as possible. That tends to really drive the material deep into my neocortex and into my long-term memory. Do you have an updated digital version covering your new material on attraction? No. we have videos. Yeah, we have last year's videos and the manual that goes with that, and the suggested reading list. So yeah, we do. We'll have another one this year because we're doing the course again in February in Las Vegas. Rod RD638 says, I'm very infatuated with a girl and I can't help but become cold, distant, and quiet. What do I do? Practice being more playful and easygoing. That's probably the best thing I can say. Okay, I got time for 3 more questions, then I got to go. So, who is the mastermind behind all these teachings? Seems so secretive. I don't know what teachings you're referring to. Is there a place to learn about the use of subliminals in written form incorporated in book writing? When you talk about subliminals, you talk about subliminal messaging? Actually, CPI 1 and 2 are probably your best sources for that. Also, I have a mini course on David Snyder NLP called NLP for Profit, which is NLP and copywriting secrets. Harlan Kilstein's work, especially NLP copywriting level 1, has some good stuff in it too. Ghost Rush says, damn, your daughter. Yes, they are. I'm in deep doo-doo. Do I use ultra depth or ultra height? No. I'm trained in it. I know how to do it. I don't use it. It just doesn't factor into a lot of the clinical work or the influence work that I do. But a lot of people who are more on the spiritual, transpersonal side, they spend a lot of time in ultra depth and ultra height. How often would you drink drinking your own energy charged water? I would do it every day. Every time I image cycle, I would drink the water or give it to somebody who needs healing. How do you discover your vision and your purpose? Come to Golden Path when we do it. Italics bonding, great for someone. We have a former speed seducer here. Weasel phrases come from Ross Jeffries' speed seduction course. Nobody else uses that phrase. I would look at NLP for Profit. I would look at CPI 1, CPI 2, Harlan Kilstein's NLP copywriting. I've heard good things about Unlimited Selling Power by Donald Moyne. Those are all good resources. How do we connect to the divine stronger? The process I use is through Kabbalistic meditation, Reiki, and a process I learned in my Taoist, Buddhist, and Christian mysticism classes called Pulling Down the Heavens. If you're in our mastermind, we go through that from time to time. We also teach it in our coaching programs and vibrational influence. All right. That's all I got time for. But I want to thank you all for coming out on a Saturday. Please like and share these videos. Please get as many people into Planet David as humanly possible. For those of you who want to start joining us on Clubhouse, I'll post more about that. But what I want to do is I want to treat the Clubhouse meetings more like an AMA than be bringing a bunch of people up to discuss things, which may not fly initially on Clubhouse, but I want you to submit your questions may not work, but we'll in advance and then we'll work on them. All right, you guys, good night. God bless. Love you. Take care.